Of all the characters in Warhammer 40k, one of the most point-for-point destructive ones might just be a Dark Angel's Chaplain. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking about a slight exploit that you can use with the Dark Angel's Interrogator Chaplain and turn him into a one-man wrecking machine that can kill entire squads of Space Marines or break vehicles in half. For any one Marine character, these stats are pretty ludicrous, so let's talk about how we can make these silly numbers happen. For the build, we're using the Interrogator Chaplain from Dark Angels, who's already a very good start. He's 85 points base, and has more wounds and attacks than your standard Chaplain, with 5 wounds and 4 attacks, which hit on 2s. He does have the Deathwing and Inner Circle keywords, which actually give him a reasonable amount of defense as well. He's only ever going to be wounded on 4+, and he's got a nice 4+ invul save as well, so despite his ludicrous melee power, he's not even all that easy to remove in return. You can just run a really cheap version of this for just 85 points, but I'd typically want to upgrade to a Master of Sanctity and a jump pack, just to give him a few more options with litanies and give him the maximum chance of making charges. By all means though, you could run him as an 85 point Chaplain and still be murderously points efficient. Now the thing about the Interrogator Chaplain that Games Workshop lightly overlooked is that he can take his Crotius Arcanum plus a weapon from the melee weapons list. This means that you could give your Chaplain a Thunderhammer or a Power Fist if needed, both of which are very nice weapons indeed, but if you keep him nice and cheap and just give him a Chainsword, then you give this guy instant access to one of the best melee weapons in Codex Space Marines, giving him the Teeth of Terra. I'm sure most Marine players will be familiar with it, but it gives him Strength +1, AP -2, Damage 2, and an additional 3 attacks. Even with no other Warlord traits, litanies or other buffs, you're still going to be a respectable melee force, with 8 attacks at Strength 5, AP -2 and Damage 2 on the charge. The extra one is thanks to Shock Assault. However, it can get far worse than this with a combination of Warlord traits and litanies. So the single best combo that really puts the Teeth of Terra through the roof is the combination with the Mantra of Strength litany. This litany is already extraordinarily powerful on Chaplains, makes them all-round melee threats, and frankly it was probably never meant to go in combination with the Teeth of Terra. It gives you another +1 attack, so you're up to 9 attacks, +1 strength, so you're up to strength 6, but most importantly of all, it gives you +1 damage, so your Teeth of Terra attacks go up to damage 3. With 9 attacks, you're going to be stacking some wounds on just about anything, and when all of those wounds go through at damage 3, even battle tanks are going to fear this guy. Then if you are a Master of Sanctity, then I would take the Exaltation of Rage for your bonus litany. This gives you +1 to wound in the fight phase, and he can nominate himself as the target of this litany. Then each time he's about to charge into close combat, you can either decide whether it would be more useful to have the Litany of Hate and re-roll his hit rolls, or the Exaltation of Rage with +1 to wound, so even if you remain at strength 6, you're still going to be wounding battle tanks on 4s. From there you have a choice of Warlord traits, and the Dark Angels will allow you to take 2 Warlord traits on the same Chaplain. It'll cost you 1 extra CP, but it means that we can stack even more successive buffs. From the main book, I think the choice is really between casting litanies on a 2+ from the Master of Sanctity Warlord trait. This one will make him a lot more reliable and less likely to whiff the Mantra of Strength at a key time, and honestly it might be the better one, as the real thing that makes this combo work is getting the Teeth of Terra to damage 3. If you are maybe feeling a bit more risky though, or willing to pay the command points to auto-pass the Mantra of Strength when it matters, you could take the Imperium Sword for +1 strength, +1 attack, and allowing him re-roll of charges. Imperium Sword plus Mantra of Strength when they're both active will get him to strength 7 and 10 attacks. From there you can combine it with one of the Dark Angels Warlord traits. 2 of them really stand out for me. Calibanite Knight really doubles down on killing infantry or bikes, auto wounding them on a 2+, or Fury of the Lion can get him another +1 strength on the charge, which is quite crucial combined with the Imperium Sword and Mantra of Strength, as that will get him all the way up to strength 8, which is pretty key for engaging his toughness 7 and toughness 8 vehicles. It will just be massively more efficient against them. Both are good to be honest, and they just swing his damage output in different ways. The Fury of the Lion is quite good as it's also an aura that can apply to nearby units, but it very much does affect the Chaplain himself, so it could make him even more of a buffing character. Finally, if you're not in Assault Doctrine already, you can automatically put him in Assault Doctrine for 1 command point by using the Dark Angel's Tactical Appraisal stratagem. He does have to be your Warlord for this, but it basically allows him to tactically appraise the situation and then decide to get really angry and go into the implacable Deathwing Doctrine. This really makes the Teeth of Terra into a high AP weapon, AP -3, but perhaps more importantly, it allows him to reroll wound rolls against characters and anything with greater than 7 wounds. This more than anything will allow him to ram that Teeth of Terra straight through battle tanks and kill them in 1 round of combat. I know that this is all a reasonable amount of investment. It's 135 points. It does take a couple of warlord traits and a CP when he fights, but it does lead to him being one of the most fighty characters in the entire game. If you did want to support him further, you could even think about using a librarian with Might of Heroes nearby. That could give him a further +1 strength, +1 toughness, and +1 attack. Theoretically, between that and the other buffs, he could be strength 9 on the charge with all that, with 11 attacks. Obviously buying the librarian will cost you quite a lot more points though, and frankly he is quite fighty already. So putting this all together, I just wanted to run through a couple of builds for this guy, and talk about the potential damage output. This first one combines the Teeth of Terra, Mantra of Strength, your choice of the second litany, and for warlord traits we go for Calibanite Knight and 2+ to cast litanies. He's only 9 attacks at strength 6, AP -3 and damage 3, but he does wound infantry and bikes on a 2+, and he can get reroll wounds versus most vehicles. On average he'll kill 6 dead intercessors or 6 dead gravis armor, he doesn't care either way with that flat damage of 3, and he'll wound both of them on 2+ equally alike. Against any toughness 7 or 8 vehicles he should be doing around about 14 wounds to them, easily enough to average the death of most mainline tanks. Not at all bad for 135 points. If we did want to push the boat out even further though, this guy will be casting litanies on 3s rather than 2s, but he picks up the Imperium's Sword and Fury of the Lion, getting him all the way up to strength 8 if he does get Mantra of Strength off. Again, you can put him in Assault Doctrine for 1 CP, and because he's a Master of Sanctity, he can use 1 command points to auto-pass the Mantra of Strength if he is going into a target that it's really going to matter against. I'd be very inclined to do that if he was charging any 3-wound infantry. In any case, this guy has 10 attacks at strength 8, AP -3 and damage 3. You get your choice of rerolls to hit or +1 to wound, admittedly casted on a 3+, but still has a very decent chance of going off, and it all winds up in his numbers being a little bit better, even if he is a bit more investment and a bit riskier. Now we're averaging 8 dead intercessors, around 7 dead gravis armor marines, a whopping 22 wounds dealt to a toughness 7 vehicle, or 18 wounds dealt to a toughness 8 one such as an Imperial Knight. Absolutely crazy for a middling points cost Space Marine character. So let me know what you think of this guy down in the comments below. I know you can combine all sorts of buffs and warlord traits, but you could even just run him as very cheap. 85 points with the Teeth of Terra and Mantra of Strength is going to go a really long way, even if you're not bothering with fancy warlord traits. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where we'll most certainly be continuing our regular 40k videos, with new content every single day. If you have been enjoying the videos regularly, I would just like to mention that the channel has a Patreon page, which is how I can afford to keep new stuff coming quite so regularly. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, such as seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the channel's regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.